Today we have the opportunity and privilege to have a conversation with Mr. Sean Buccannan. He's had important experience using the new nanotechnology referred to as complex nanofluids developed by CESI Chemical, a division of Flowtech Industries. I'm Glenn Penny, Director of Technology for CESI and the inventor of CnF. I also have here Dr. Jim Crafton.
Hello.
Of Performance Sciences, a third-party independent consultant for CESI and Flowtech. Sean, I'm glad you could be here today. And we're going to have you give us your insight and describe your experiences with this new complex nanofluid chemistry.
My understanding is these were mostly Eagleford wells. Could you tell us a little bit about the specific well completions, depths, lateral lengths, treatments?
Yeah, the Eagleford is where we were at is a carbonatic shell. It's stringers of calcite in there. These laterals were anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 feet. Multi-stage hydraulic fracturing treatments. We would start with a little bit of hydrochloric acid to clean the perfs, then go into a slick water, followed by a cross-linked borate gel system, and placing up to 4.5 pound sand in the formation.
In the design and fluids, was the GOR, the expected GORs of the wells an issue?
No. The GOR in that particular area where we were at was ranged from 2,500 as high as up to 2,500 and as low as 100 in that area. So it's oily to gassy, gas condensate, high yield.
Did you see any expected change in the GOR from those wells compared to the wells that did not have CnF in them?
We didn't see much change in the GOR, but what we did see was the amount of flowback coming back. Initially, the well would come on much stronger and hold a lot longer. We were getting better pressures, better returns, more fluid, and initially a little bit more gas. Just higher rates is what we saw mainly.
How about the pressures?
The pressures stayed a lot stronger rather than the quick decline that we usually saw. They would stay up a little bit longer. We plotted most of this data and submitted a lot of it back to y'all and as well as the service company.
Excellent. In your flowback strategy, can you kind of walk through what were your goals with respect to the flowback and how you executed it?
Unfortunately, we didn't really have a flowback strategy. Most of our flowback strategy revolved around how many trucks we could get to location. So that was unfortunately, we'd have to manage the choke based on how many trucks could get the oil and water out. So, but we did start with a very small choke size and then worked up as the trucks could handle the fluid, going all the way up to an 18, and then kind of holding right there. We had a set point that we were looking for in the area, about 1,200 barrels a day.
Would you compare the rates of decline? I infer from what you just said that the rate of decline of pressure and rate was not as extreme as what you had experienced.
Correct. We saw that, and as well we had a really strange effect. When we came in and did an infill well, the two wells were shut in, and then we had fracked the middle well, and the fluid obviously had permeated over to the other two wells because we saw pressure increase. But when we opened the other two wells, the oil rate on those wells actually went up from where it was.
You attribute that to the use of the CnF?
Absolutely. We had some samples pulled, and we could see, that there was something from the frack water was going into the other side. So it was not only pushing through, it was actually helping clean up the other wells.
So it would give you encouragement that this might actually be an enhanced recovery process as well.
Possibly. I'm not going to say that, but we talked about that. No one's ever heard of water flooding a shale.
True.
So what were the IPs as compared to the non-CnF wells?
Anywhere from 100 to 250 barrels a day more. And on the gas side, anywhere from 6 to 1.1 million cubic feet.
Substantial then.
Pretty substantial, yeah. So that was the major factor why we continued with the program of using it.
So how long were these wells shut in typically?
Typically they're shut in for about a week or two, long enough to get the flow lines hooked up, as well as the clean out for the subsequent offset wells, because they were all multi-well pads. So you'd be working on one, shut it in, then go to the other one, and then of course 3-day hookup to facilities.
So was this well that you saw this incident on, was it shut in at the time?
Yeah, the two offset wells were shut in, correct. And then the well in the middle was the one that we were actually stimulating, and it had fed over to the other well. It was really interesting.
Okay, very interesting. So how long have these wells been on production now?
Some of them been on almost 12 months. Some of them a little bit shorter. But that was kind of the yardstick we used. Was we had 6-month window, 12-month window, and then we had a 3-month window, and we looked at all of these wells. A lot of them were drilled in sections, so they were the same rock, same depth, same everything, same frac job. Just the only difference was the chemical, and that's when we went back and looked and made sure that what's the only thing that's changed is obviously the additives.
So you said you figured after 6 months when you did that analysis, you saw the CnF
Much higher.
had a significant higher, and then after a year, it's holding
Absolutely.
and declining less.
Absolutely. Much better well.